The sitting is resumed. It's time for questions to the Minister for Economy. Question 5 has been withdrawn. I call Alan Robinson.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Tourism has a key role to play in contributing to my objectives of regional balance and decarbonisation. I welcome the recent news that the Roe Valley Resort is going to benefit from substantial investment by its new owners, the Galgorm Collection. Both Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland promote all regions of the North through seasonal marketing campaigns. These are delivered both domestically in Ireland and overseas to make consumers aware of accommodation offers, attractions and things to see and do. The Roe Valley Resort has benefited from featuring in previous campaigns and will continue to do so in the future. Both agencies also deliver a year-round programme of social media, email and influencer marketing along with extensive PR, which the Roe Valley Resort will benefit from. As part of the PR activity, Tourism NI will ensure that the resort is included within itineraries of the 300 international journalists and influencers which Tourism Ireland brings to the North each year. The Galgorm Collection are regular participants in Tourism Ireland's calendar of overseas events, where they meet and secure business from international operators in the travel, trade, business events and golf sectors. The Roe Valley Resort will now benefit as part of that portfolio and their ongoing presence at these events, as well as at last week's Meet the Buyer event, where local businesses were able to meet with 160 international tour operators.
Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for her response. What steps, Minister, is your department, alongside Invest NI, taking to attract further new business and investment to the Roe Valley, particularly in high-value industries?
Minister.
Yeah, and as the member will be aware, we have recently published the Sub-Regional Economic Plan, which is our approach to promoting regional balance. And just yesterday, the Causeway Coast and Glens Council had the first meeting of their local economic partnership. So it enables the local council, along with partners, to develop plans for the local economy. So that's something that we're really keen to support, and we have put £45 million of funding towards doing that. We are working with Invest NI, as you know. They have aligned with the department's strategy and the 4 priorities that we have, including regional balance, and they now have a target of 65% outside of Belfast. They have specific targets for each council area. And we will be working with them alongside the local economic partnerships to develop the offering for each of the local council areas. So that obviously includes Roe Valley, and I'm very familiar, obviously, as yourself, with that particular area and the strength that there are within it. And we are also working with Tourism Ireland and Tourism NI in terms of promoting the tourism offering.
Philip McGuigan.
Collier, and I thank the Minister for her update on work on the Roe Valley along the Causeway coastal route. Further to that, can I ask the Minister to advise on progress on including the Causeway coastal route within the Wild Atlantic Way?
Minister.
The £7 million shared island funded project is progressing well. The aim of this is to connect the Wild Atlantic Way and Causeway coastal route so that it presents a seamless touring route for the tourist. The intention is to give greater visibility to tourism experiences beyond the traditional hotspots, and the member being from Northampton will be very familiar with those, encouraging people to spend more time and money in the region. Design work is currently being undertaken on improved signage, and the applications to the small capital grant scheme are currently being assessed by Tourism Ireland and Fáilte Ireland.
Cara Hunter.
Thank you, Minister, for your answer so far, and I'm sure we can all welcome this incredible level of investment in the Roe Valley Resort. Minister, can you outline any further discussions you have had with your counterparts in the south with regards tourism and looking at that all-island approach?
Minister.
Yeah, since I have come into post, I've had the opportunity to meet with the Minister in the south, and there's actually a North-South Ministerial Council scheduled for the 16th of April, so we will have further opportunities to discuss that. I've also had the opportunity to work alongside Tourism Ireland and accompanied them to ITB in Berlin, which is a big international tourism conference, and again in New York had the opportunity with Tourism Ireland to meet with tour operators and providers there, and with Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland at last week's Meet the Buyer event in the Econ Centre. So there has been a lot of conversations. It's an area where the previous Minister had obviously published the Tourism Action Plan, and I think there is huge potential from tourism across the whole region, and it's one of those sectors that really does deliver on our regional balance objectives alongside our other economic objectives. So I look forward to having more conversations with my counterpart in the South.
Timothy Gasson.
Question 2, Mr. Speaker.
Sir.
I recognise the importance of hydrogen and the contribution that it will make to decarbonisation. High-Tech NI is a £15 million investment from the Executive's Complementary Fund, jointly sponsored by Queen's University and Mid and East Antrim Borough Council, who are partnering with Ulster University and industry to develop the project. It consists of 2 complementary core strands of work, covering the development of several hydrogen demonstrators located in Ballymena and the development of a hydrogen innovation accelerator to facilitate R&D via the procurement and deployment of specialist equipment. My department, through Invest NI, is supporting the project promoters in developing the business case and ensuring that it meets the needs of local industry. In addition, Invest NI is also supporting the I4C Clean Tech Hub as part of a wider regeneration plan for the former St Patrick's Barracks within the Mid and East Antrim Borough Council area through the £20.5 million funding from Belfast Region City Deal. This investment will include Grade A office space, SME laboratories and an innovation laboratory, as well as a hydrogen training academy which will have dedicated staff to assist SMEs to adopt the technology.
Mr. Gasson.
Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for her answer so far. Minister, all efforts to date within the Mid and East Antrim area have been led by the local council. At what stage will central government start to unfurl its strategy and start to take over and roll out the hydrogen industry across Northern Ireland? I believe, and I made the case in the Chamber last week, where I believe that Ballymena should become the hydrogen hub of Northern Ireland, and I would strongly recommend that to you, and hopefully through time we'll see the investment that comes with it. We have industry, we have a local government authority leading on it. We now need the executive to get in behind it.
Minister.
And I thank the member for his question, and I thought we had a good discussion in last week's debate on the hydrogen motion, and I think, as I outlined in my opening answer, there is clearly that collaboration between the Department of Invest NI and the local universities alongside Mid and East Antrim Borough Council, and we are keen to support that in any way that we can. Obviously, as I mentioned in my earlier answer to Mr Robinson, there is also the local economic partnerships that each of the council areas are initiating at the minute. So Mid and East Antrim Council will obviously have the opportunity as part of that to develop their own economic plans that fit their local area. So I wouldn't be surprised if hydrogen features within part of that plan, and clearly the objective of the local economic partnerships, we are putting funding to support them, but the objective is that they then use that to leverage other funding and to work alongside executive departments to develop proposals. So I look forward to engaging with Mid and East Antrim Council on that.
Thank the Minister for her answer. Can the Minister outline when her department will be consulting on a hydrogen policy, please?
Mr.
My department officials continue to work on developing the hydrogen policy consultation paper, and we have established a hydrogen industry working group which consists of representatives from industry, academia and representative groups to inform this work with a view to publication for consultation in Q2 of this year. Stakeholders will then be given a period of 12 weeks to respond to the questions, which cover a whole range of issues within the consultation process, and some of those were aired as part of the debate last week. So I think this is quite an exciting policy area for us, and we're looking forward to consulting on it.
Aye, Harvey.
Speaker, does the Minister agree that hydrogen benefits are right across Northern Ireland and not just North Antrim? Thank you.
Minister.
I do agree that there are opportunities for hydrogen to benefit the whole of the north, and indeed we are working across both islands in respect of that as well, because there are policy developments in both the south and in Britain, and we are keen to learn obviously from best practice and to seek to develop our policy in a way that is going to be complementary to other policies as well.
Linda Dillon.
Can Corlia test over 3 question
Minister.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to group questions 3 and question 8. My officials are working closely with the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government to co-design the North's £150 million Enhanced Investment Zone programme. The focus of the programme must be consistent with the British Government's objectives and priority sectors, and is likely to concentrate on the advanced manufacturing sector. This sector cuts across many areas, including green industries, life and health sciences, and employs an estimated 80,000 people and accounts for half of our export sales. The development of the programme must follow a 5-stage approval process, and the target for final approval is autumn 2025. Key to securing approval at each stage is clear demonstration that the investment zone funding will drive productivity and leverage significant private sector funding. During March, my department has hosted regional workshops with the private sector and other stakeholders. To help keep this work, we have also put out, to help develop this work, we have also put out a call for evidence to the attendees.
Mrs. Dillon.
Can Corlia thank the Minister for her answer. And Minister, I agree with Mr. Harvey. I think we need to get outside North Antrim and all of Antrim, and I'm going to be focused on Mid Ulster, as I'm sure will not come as any surprise to you. Can you tell me what engagement you have had, particularly with the engineering sector in Mid Ulster, in relation to the work that is being undertaken to develop the investment zone proposition?
Sure.
My officials have been concentrating on developing the evidence base that clearly supports the rationale for how the enhanced investment zone funding might be deployed, and that includes identifying key barriers to growth in our target sector of advanced manufacturing and what opportunities there are for growth in that sector, and critically the likely interventions that will address those barriers. So officials have been working closely with colleagues in both our universities and also the private sector. They've also undertaken a series of regional workshops, again that involve the private sector, local representative bodies, colleges, universities and also our ports. And part of these workshops is also focusing on the skills agenda, because clearly we need to develop our thinking about how we could use the investment zone funding to drive forward the skills gap that will be required to support our companies improve their productivity performance, so they can be in a position to create those better jobs. And the skills barometer has highlighted there are significant skills shortages in the advanced manufacturing sector, and I know the member will be familiar with Mega in Mid Ulster that has worked to address some of those. There is potential for the investment zone funding to support skills interventions at all levels to address this gap. Qualifications in the fields of engineering and manufacturing obviously lead to high quality, well paid jobs, increase our potential for productivity growth and contribute to our goals as the sector develops and embraces emerging green technologies. And I will be publishing a Green Skills Action Plan, which has been developed in collaboration with industry and education, and is aligned with our commitment to deliver a just transition to net zero.
Colin McGrath.
Sir, Minister, the previous answer from the Minister just maybe feeds into what I was going to ask, which is that £150 million isn't a small amount of money, but it's also not a very big amount of money. And if we go through a full list of activities such as that, there is a risk we may spread the money so thin that it doesn't actually make any real difference in an overall term. Is some cognizance been given to try and find big projects that could be supported, that would deliver real change, bring jobs, bring investment and maximise the bang of the buck of this money?
Sure.
And I thank the member for his question. And as I set out in my opening answer, one of the key objectives of developing the programme is that we are able to leverage in that private sector funding alongside the investment that is going to come from the public sector. So it is about getting absolutely maximising the money that we are obtaining in terms of the enhanced investment zone funding, and then utilising that to leverage further funding, because you're quite right, it's not a small pot of funding, but it's not huge either, so we have to try and deliver as much bang for our buck as we possibly can.
David Hollyford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the Minister for her answers. Given that we're only 2.8% of the UK population, smaller than some of the regional cities that have been targeted by the government with access to UK and GB markets, I just want to clarify, is the whole of Northern Ireland been included in the enhanced investment zone?
That is the approach that has been adopted in relation to the enhanced investment zone and has been agreed with the British government. As you rightly say, we're quite a small region and population size as well. So we wanted to maximise the opportunities for people to benefit from it, and that's why we took the approach of addressing it towards advanced manufacturing, which encompasses quite a broad range of sectors even within that broad headline, and we are keen to work alongside the private sector to develop proposals that are going to have the maximum impact.
Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question 4.
Minister.
Artificial intelligence is one of the most important technological developments in recent times. It will bring about significant change in the economy and the workforce, and it offers potential to contribute to my economic vision, most obviously in relation to productivity and good jobs. Currently, the EU's AI Act applies in the North in respect of Articles 103 to 107 and 109, as these amend legislation listed in Annex 2 of the Windsor Framework. The EU notified the British Government of these articles' application under Article 13.3 of the Windsor Framework following the Act's publication on the 12th of July 2024. In its explanatory memorandum of the 17th of July, the British Government considered that these provisions would have limited, if any, impact in practice. The British Government and the EU continue to discuss the potential application of these remaining provisions of the EU AI Act under the Windsor Framework. The remaining provisions of the Act are set out as new provisions, so their application in the North would require notification via the process set out in Article 3.4 of the Windsor Framework, and that is the matter for the British Government. No notifications under Article 13.4 have been made at this stage. It is important to note, however, that businesses and developers outside of the EU will have to comply with the AI Act if their AI system is sold in the EU, or if, when deployed, its output is used in the EU. So this applies to businesses in Britain in the same way as it does to businesses in Ireland, North and South.
Ms. Armstrong.
Thank you, Minister, for your response. Minister, can I ask then, what is the long-term strategy for AI development in Northern Ireland?
So you will be aware that this is something that we are continuing to develop as part of the programme for government. The Executive Office is establishing an AI task force and the forthcoming Office of AI and Digital, and we will be continuing to work on a collaborative basis within and across departments within the North and across these islands to harness the positive potential of the safe and responsible use of technology. Clearly, we have a lot of skills strength in relation to particularly software engineering and cyber, and we do have huge potential, in my opinion, to be a hub for AI as well. And so it is something that both from the executive perspective, but also from the department's perspective, that we are keen to explore.
John Buckley.
Thank you, Speaker. AI is revolutionary and indeed crucial to future growth opportunities. While other nations want to lead on developing the opportunities that AI present, the EU wants to lead on its regulation. So, Minister, is it not inevitable that this will hold back innovative entrepreneurs in Northern Ireland who your party has helped bind to the EU, sacrificing their talents and ambitions on the altar of EU bureaucracy and red tape and presenting further barriers? And will the Minister commit to a deep departmental analysis before this regulation is published in the EU Journal to ensure that our own local Indigenous businesses and entrepreneurs are not placed at a disadvantage?
Minister.
Well, the analysis of the British Government in advance of or when the explanatory memorandum was published was that there was limited impact in practice. So clearly we will be continuing to analyse what comes forward in terms of the legislative impact and the practical implications of that. That is something I think that you would expect that we will do. But we will also be working, as I outlined in my answer to Ms Armstrong, to harness the potential of AI and to try and maximise its benefits, obviously taking into account the need to do that safely and in a way that protects privacy.
On Bunting.
Question 6, please, Mr Speaker.
The closure of Connswater Shopping Centre is regrettable for businesses and obviously for the employees that are impacted. My department is committed to doing everything possible to support those affected. My department's career service is available to support anyone facing redundancy or who has been made unemployed as a result of the closure of Connswater Shopping Centre. The department's redundancy payment service aims to process claims as quickly as possible within 2 weeks of receipt of all the necessary information. Careers advisors have access to up-to-date labour market information provided by the department's economists, which they use with the client to inform careers guidance discussions about reskilling, training, apprenticeships and further and higher education. This support is professional and free and specific and tailored to the needs of each individual, with the aim of supporting as many employees as possible back into employment. Many of the issues facing our retailers, including the former business tenants of Connswater Shopping Centre, are outside the remit of the executive. However, I'm very aware of the real and pressing issues facing our retailers. These concerns are being examined as part of the cost of doing business research project, which I commissioned in my previous capacity as Finance Minister.
Ms Bunting.
Mr Speaker, and I'm grateful to the Minister for those practical options that she has outlined for those affected. She'll be aware that the closure of Connswater was a significant body blow to the people of East Belfast and beyond. Can I ask her then, despite the good work that is done by East Belfast Enterprises and East Side Partnership, what action can be taken by her department and what work can be done by her department to restore what used to be thriving areas in inner East Belfast, including the Newtonards Road, to help to create jobs, good jobs for people in this area?
Minister.
Yeah, and I thank the member for her question, and I think we're all very aware of the changing nature of our high streets and our city centres, and it's something I think that not just we grapple with. I am very willing to work across departments to look at how we can support the development of strong and thriving high streets and obviously, we had the High Street Task Force previously. Many of the recommendations from it are now being implemented. As I mentioned in some of my previous answers as well, the local economic partnerships are being set up under each of the councils, and there are opportunities as part of those for each area to develop economic plans that meets the needs of their local community. So I think there are opportunities there, and as I said in one of my previous answers as well, there's funding provided for those, but that's aiming to support each of the local economic partnerships to develop proposals and then to work alongside departments in terms of taking some of those proposals forward.
And Minister, what progress has been made on the implementation of the High Street Task Force recommendations?
The report of the High Street Task Force was an important stage in our approach to improving our high streets. My department had particular responsibility for recommendation 8 of that report, Fair Work on Our High Streets, and that recommendation very much aligns with my economic priority on good jobs. So there is ongoing work within my department on the development of a new employment rights bill, promotion of greater adoption of the real living wage, and collaboration with the Labour Relations Agency to create a good employment charter which will serve to support the implementation of that particular recommendation.
Sinead McLaughlin.
Mr. Speaker, Minister, from East Belfast to the North West, businesses are being forced to shut down due to the cost of doing business. You referred to the research that you have commissioned. What conversations have you had with the Finance Minister about some of the recommendations in that research?
Minister.
So that research was commissioned just before Christmas, and we are expecting it to report very, very soon. We had hoped it would report by the end of this month. So I think that there will be opportunities to analyse the outworkings of that report, and clearly the objective, I suppose, of that research was to give us an understanding of the issues and to have an evidential base for which to make arguments about, and in particular in relation to making the case for perhaps special circumstances to be taken into consideration in relation to decisions that were being taken by the British Treasury. So I think that the outworkings of that research will be important to informing future considerations, both for the Executive but also in relation to any case that we are making to Treasury.
Alma Hall.
Devon, please.
Sure.
Getting young people with a disability into a good job is a critical part of my economic vision. The loss of ESF funding has had a significant impact and has significantly reduced the skills and training support available to disabled people. Despite this, we continue to work closely with the Department for Communities, who are the lead department on disability, including on the Disability and Work Strategy. My department makes an important contribution through a whole range of programmes and services. This includes programmes such as Skill Up, Step Up and Skills for Life and Work. The apprenticeship programme also provides additional support to assist disabled people with their off-the-job training. There is also the Breaking Barriers programme, which specifically targets those who are disabled or neurodivergent and over the age of 18. And finally, I expect to receive a report soon from my officials in relation to the work that they've been doing on provision for young people with special educational needs.
Ms Mulholland.
Thank you so much, Minister. I think that's really comprehensive and really, really useful. I'm just wondering if there's any work that your department is doing with employers to encourage excuse me, to encourage inclusive workplaces. That'll be more kind of useful, I suppose, for disabled people to come into.
Sure.
Yes, and I think that is actually a really important aspect to it. So we talk a lot about having programmes in place to support individuals who face barriers to work and training, and that is something that's really important to me, that we have those programmes in place. But equally, we are working with employers to try and address some of the barriers that people face to employment and what they can do to support people into employment, and that can be things about having more accessible workplaces, but also, you know, removing unnecessary criteria from job applications. So that's, I think, something that we are have the potential to make a bit of a difference on, and I'm keen to continue to progress that.
Minister, and I know you answered in relation to young people there, but more generally, what type of supports currently exist for people with a disability?
Minister.
The department and its predecessor departments have a long history of seeking to widen access and increase participation for disabled people across the various programmes and provisions that it funds. The types of support vary depending on the type of provision being accessed. In terms of in addition to the widening participation funding that higher education providers themselves invest from fee income, there is also financial assistance for the student via the Disabled Student Allowance. There is a grant of up to £25,000 per annum to assist students with the additional higher education course-related expenses that they occur as a direct result of a disability. That can cover non-medical helpers, specialised equipment, travel to and from the place of study, and about 2,500 students avail of that support each year. In further education, the department allocates £4.5 million to colleges each year to assist them in supporting their students, and this is put to support such as specialist technology and software, non-medical helpers such as scribes and readers, and it can also fund tailored courses with smaller, more supported classes for those who, because of a disability, can't access mainstream provision. And then we also have allocated step-up funding to the colleges, with over £4 million being allocated to the disability access route to education and employment in the last 2 years. Support on our training programmes such as Skills for Life and Work can include extended age eligibility and time on the programme, as well as additional disability support being available on both this and our apprenticeship programmes.
Tom Buchanan.
Question number 8. Sorry, question number 9, Mr. Speaker.
In March, I travelled to the US along with officials from InvestNI, where I met with senior executives from key US investors, engaged with business leaders, potential new investors and industry networks. The visit wasn't a trade mission, but rather an opportunity to reinforce the North's position as an attractive, competitive and strategic location for US business investment, while also supporting our companies to succeed internationally. During my visit, I addressed business leaders in New York and Boston to strengthen relationships with influential business, civic and political leaders, and to affirm our commitment to mutually beneficial transatlantic partnerships. I highlighted the economic benefits of dual market access, our world-class talent and the opportunities for US companies to invest and expand. And I attended a Tourism Ireland Roundtable Business Breakfast and met around 20 key travel trade partners. These included tour operators and airline contacts who are promoting and selling the North as a must-see destination for American visitors to Ireland. I highlighted the potential there is for tourism here to grow and the positive impact it can have on our local communities and wider economy. Commercial outcomes with businesses and inward investment projects take time to come to fruition. However, I am confident that these discussions and the ongoing work of InvestNI will result in positive future outcomes.
Moving on to topical questions, and I call Sinead McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, the electronic travel authorisation scheme for EU nationals is set to be introduced tomorrow. We have repeatedly highlighted the threat that this poses to the all-island tourism economy. Can you update us on any engagement with the British Government regarding any exemptions for those travelling north?
Yeah, and I thank the member for her question. I am deeply concerned about the impact of the introduction of the ETA scheme and what it will mean for our tourism sector, especially as it goes live tomorrow, as you mentioned, for European citizens, and also that next week the cost increases. So I had met with the Tourism Alliance last week and heard about their concerns and about the very real impact that is now being seen from the introduction of this scheme. And they were talking about tours and trips actually being cancelled at this point, and the North being removed from itineraries due to that requirement for visitors to have an ETA. And I have, of course, engaged with the British Government. As recently as last week, I had written to the British Home Office to make the case again that there needs to be an exemption for the North, given the particular impact that there is and how visitors travel to the island, mostly through Dublin and then to the North. So it's something I will continue to engage on, and obviously we will continue to monitor the impact as well.
Ms. McLaughlin.
The Home Office estimates that the ETA fee could cost the UK economy up to £735 million over 5 years. Will you publish your research from your department on the economic impact for Northern Ireland? And is this being used to push for exemptions for the North?
Minister.
So this is something that we are continuing to monitor, as I said, and we are working both with the Tourism Alliance but also Tourism Ireland in terms of understanding the impact, and we will continue obviously to take an economic analysis of that over coming weeks and months, because I do think that making the case for an exemption, and when you look at how many European citizens travel, they travel with ID cards, and therefore they're not even able to get an ETA because you need a passport to get it. So the impact is going to be significant, and it is important that we do understand that.
Pat Sheehan.
Can the Minister provide an update on post-19 provision for people with special educational needs?
So So last year, my department officials were tasked with reviewing the existing skills and training provision by my predecessor, Conor Murphy, and the relevant legislative protections for school leavers with special educational needs, and asked to bring forward recommendations. They have taken a twin-track approach to that work, which has involved both a desk-based review of the wide range of relevant reports, recommendations and research, as well as commissioning a piece of comparative work from Stranmillis University College on the different legislative arrangements across Britain and Ireland. In parallel, they have undertaken more than 80 visits, meetings and engagements with a wide array of stakeholders. This has included parents, schools, young people, colleges, training providers, the community and voluntary sector, representative organisations, other departments, the Health Trust and counterparts from other jurisdictions. This has been incredibly valuable in drawing out the different issues and perspectives. And that work is being drawn to a close, and my officials will report to me shortly, and once I've had the opportunity to consider those findings and their advice, I will update this House, and I expect I will bring issues to the Executive for an informed discussion on the next steps.
Mr. Shane.
We've all been inspired by the Caleb's Cause campaign. So in that light, can the Minister assure us that she will listen to the voices of young people and their parents when it comes to improving services?
Sure.
Yes, I can absolutely assure you that we are listening to those voices, and I very much commend Caleb's mummy Alma in terms of her campaign and the work that she has done in relation to shining a spotlight on this issue. Indeed, as part of that stakeholder engagement that I outlined, my officials have had many opportunities to speak directly with young people to hear about their interests and aspirations, and they have also met with young people's parents and heard the very real frustrations and concerns, as well as obviously their hopes for their young people. Officials also had the opportunity to attend the Inspiring event at Parliament Buildings that was organised by Alma and Caleb's Cause last month. So as we move forward, we will continue to actively listen to the voices of young people and their parents as we work to try to improve the services and provision.
Harry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister has intimated previously of her desire to bring forward legislation on offshore renewable energy. Does she envisage any financial incentivisation being required to stimulate this method of securing renewable energy for the grid? Thank you.
Yes, the member is quite right. We are working on an offshore renewables energy installations bill, which will establish frameworks for the decommissioning, safety zones, the rights of navigation in our waters, and we are working with the Office of Legislative Counsel in respect of that. I do envisage that incentivisation is going to be necessary in relation to the investment in offshore projects, and that will continue to be part of the developmental process of the support scheme that we will be consulting on later in the year, and that it also fits into the work on the critical path timeline for the offshore renewable energy, which has been undertaken by the OREEP's steering group.
Mr. Harvey.
And thank you, Minister, for your answers so far. Does the Minister have a time frame for bringing a bill to the floor on offshore energy? Thank you.
Yeah, so my department is committed to bringing this bill, the one that I referred to in the previous answer, to the Assembly in autumn of this year. We are keen to make progress. I have recently met with Renewables NI, and just yesterday I met with the NI Maritime and Offshore Network, and as a sector they are very keen to see progress and to work with us to ensure that the supply chain is ready for any offshore developments. So I have committed to continuing to work alongside the sector.
Colin Cullen.
Can the Minister provide an update on the Social Enterprise Co-Design Group, please?
Minister.
So the Social Enterprise Co-Design Group held its most recent meeting on the 13th of March. At this, the group were updated on progress with the implementation of the Social Enterprise Action Plan and began discussions on how to further develop the work in future financial years. I have subsequently met with both the Chair and Co-Chair, Dave Linton and Maeve Monaghan, just last week to discuss progress and to hear their views on what more can be done to strengthen the social enterprise sector here. The broad focus of the current work is improving participation of social enterprises in public sector commissioning and strengthening leadership capacity within the sector. Positive progress has been made with Invest NI and Intertrade Ireland in terms of facilitating access by social enterprises to support, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank both of those organisations for the willingness and creativity they have shown to develop solutions at pace. The co-design group will meet again later this month, specifically to discuss access to finance for the sector, and I look forward to attending their next meeting, which is in June.
Ara, so you will be more than familiar that credit unions are a vital part of that enterprise sector and the role they have in helping people who are financially excluded for the best part. So will your department work with credit unions to strengthen their legislative base, which will eventually allow them to offer more service to people who need it most?
Minister.
Yeah, and I thank the member for that question and for highlighting the work of credit unions. My department is working closely with the Irish League of Credit Unions, the Ulster Federation of Credit Unions and other stakeholders to co-design and deliver credit union policy and legislative change that will modernise and strengthen the credit union movement. And I will soon be launching a consultation to enable credit unions to offer a wider range of products and services while preserving their unique community-focused ethos. The changes will securely anchor credit unions within local communities as a focal point for tackling financial exclusion.
Morris Bromley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, there are 50 acres or more of Invest NI land in my constituency in East Londonderry. What discussions, if indeed any, have taken place with or to attract potential investors to East Londonderry?
And I thank the member for his question, and of course we share a constituency. And as I mentioned, I think in one of my earlier answers to Mr Robinson, actually our other constituency colleague, the local economic partnerships is a key plank in terms of developing proposals for each local area, and I had the opportunity just yesterday to attend the Causeway Coast and Glens first local economic partnership meeting. I think they will be really important in terms of bringing forward proposals. We also have the regional property scheme that we have developed alongside Invest NI to look at the opportunities for developing land in each of the local areas. So that's something that we will be continuing to work with Invest NI alongside Invest NI in coming weeks and months.
Mr Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Minister, for your answer. Minister, there seems to be a lack of movement. Maybe you could detail in a written answer what movement or what engagement has taken place by Invest NI in East Londonderry, considering that the most secure data centre has been operational now for 10 years or more and hasn't turned a brick, more or less.
Well, I think it is important that we work alongside both the local council and the universities and regional colleges as well as Invest NI, and that's what we are doing through the local economic partnerships. I'd be happy to correspond with the Minister further in relation to specific issues in relation to Invest NI if he wants to write to me in respect of that.
Alderman McMurray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister so far. Can I ask the Minister for the Economy for an update on regional rebalancing?
Minister.
So regional balance is one of the 4 priorities within my economic plan. So regional balance, good jobs, productivity and decarbonisation. In relation to regional balance specifically, in October last year, Conor Murphy published the sub-regional economic plan. And a key part of that, as I have mentioned, is the establishment of the local economic partnerships. I think Newry Morningdown was the first local economic partnership to be established, and I had the opportunity yesterday to attend their investment conference, which was a really positive event, and there's some really good work being done there. And I think in that particular area you have a lot of homegrown businesses who clearly there's a very strong entrepreneurship spirit there. So it's something that we are keen to build upon and to work in partnership with local councils in terms of delivering that.
Mr. McMurray.
Thank you for the answer. But again, given the lack of investment previously and the fact that many businesses, such as in Downpaddock, are recovering from the floods, just can she provide assurance that any rebalancing will be targeted efficiently?
Minister.
Yes, and I take the minister or the member's point. I think that it is important that we are working in partnership with local councils in terms of developing those plans, and that's why we have taken that particular road. As the member will also be aware, alongside the department's economic vision and economic plans, InvestNI have published their business plan for the next 3 years, and they have very much aligned with the department's economic vision, including in relation to regional balance, and they have a target of 65% of investments outside of Belfast, of the Greater Belfast metropolitan area, and they have specific targets for each of the council areas as well. So I think that there are efforts being made to ensure that rebalancing is done, and it is done in an efficient way, but it is very much done in partnership with local areas as well.
Stephen Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During your time as Finance Minister, you commissioned cost of doing business research. Written answers, both the Finance Minister and yourself assured us that this work would be completed by the end of March. Can you provide us any update on where we are with that, please?
So it has not obviously come to me because it will go to the Finance Minister. I think it is an important piece of research in terms of providing that evidence base to support any potential interventions from an executive perspective, but also and importantly in terms of making the case to the British Treasury that we have special circumstances here that need to be taken into account. So I am looking forward to seeing the publication of the research.
That ends questions to the Minister for the Economy. We're now moving on to questions to the Assembly Commission, and I call David Honeyford.
Come on.